Good morning, Bone.
Morning, Gary. How are you?
I'm doing well. A lot of excitement today. Antonio Alfano, the big defensive lineman out of New Jersey, is going to announce his commitment. It looks like it's between Alabama, Penn State, and Georgia. We know with him being right there in New Jersey, this is a huge priority for Penn State, James Franklin. And Georgia had really been in there strong as well. But now it looks like, as we sit here this morning, that Alabama might be the team to beat. What's your feeling? What's the latest?
Yeah, that's kind of the direction that I'm leaning right now. Probably been leaning that way for a couple of weeks. He visited Alabama earlier this spring. It was his second time to visit Tuscaloosa, and really hit it off with the coaching staff. Really liked defensive line coach Craig Kuligowski. Got a good relationship with Coach Josh Gaddis from his prior time at Penn State. We knew him pretty well. Penn State was always kind of considered the team to beat there. They were always the favorite for him. And, then he started visiting the SEC schools and visited Alabama and Georgia and really liked it a lot down in the South and, really liked those programs a lot. But, as we go into today, I think it's between Alabama and Penn State. I think Georgia's probably third. It would surprise me if he picked Georgia. I think it'd surprise a lot of people if he picked Georgia. So I think it's definitely between Alabama and Penn State. And I'd give Alabama the edge right now. And I think he'll announce for them today and, be a huge addition to Alabama's class. As many know, is obviously one of the best in the country already.
Yeah, let me ask you about him. I mean, you're right. There are some that are saying he is the best defensive lineman in the country. Extremely athletic, 6'4", 285 pounds, can run, obviously has the potential to play at over 300 pounds. Just how good do you think Alfano is?
Well, I think he's gotten better every single year in high school. I remember when he was a sophomore, he really kind of busted on the scene when he was just a freshman. I started hearing about him a little bit. Started hearing about this defensive lineman in New Jersey who had a chance to develop into something really special down the road. And over the course of the last 3 years, he's really blossomed. I mean, he went from 220 pounds to 240 pounds to 260 to now 280 pounds. So he's almost put on about 20 pounds each year since his freshman year, and been able to maintain his speed, his quickness, and only gotten better in that regard. Has worked with a lot of really good defensive line coaches in his area that have really helped him out a lot. I think he's actually transferred 3 different times to 3 different schools, and I think I asked around. You always try to find out, okay, a kid has transferred 3 different times. He must be some sort of troublemaker. And I think he got in a little bit of trouble early on in his high school career. But I think all that's kind of behind him. And it wasn't anything major. It wasn't anything where people would question recruiting him or not. I think it was just something really small. But I think he's kind of got his head focused now. He's been focused on academics and doing the right things off the field. But also, working hard and getting better off the field or on the field as well. But he's an outstanding football player. He's gone to some camps this spring and has done extremely well. And like you said, many people think he could be the best defensive lineman in the country. And I know that we have him on Rivals as I can't remember exactly where he's ranked. I know he's considered one of the top 10 defensive linemen in the country, and certainly a kid that has a chance to be special. And I always tell people, I said, if you're anywhere between number 1 in the country and number, let's say, 150, then we're basically saying you've got a great opportunity in the next 3 to 4 years to become an NFL first-round or second-round draft pick, and I think that's pretty good compliment. And it's all projection, so you never know what may happen. We've had a lot of we've had some defensive linemen who we've had number 1 in the country, the number 1 defensive lineman in the country a couple years in a row. Even though Deshaun Hand got drafted, Deshaun Hand wasn't an NFL first round draft pick. Byron Cowart was a number 1 defensive lineman in the country, and obviously we saw him transfer from Auburn. But you just never know sometimes how kids are going to develop. But we have high expectations for Antonio Alfano, regardless of where he goes. I mean, obviously Penn State has produced a lot of great defensive linemen. Georgia, if he ended up going there, produces a lot of great players. But obviously Alabama, the track record in Tuscaloosa, especially over the course of the last 10 years, with with so many great players like Jaron Reed and Ashawn Robinson and Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen and Dalvin Thomas and Marcel Darius. The list just kind of goes on. And then you throw in Coach Craig Kulikowski, who many consider is one of the top 2 or 3 defensive line coaches in America. Developed so many top guys at Missouri, and had a great 2 years down at Miami. Really kind of transformed that defensive line down in Miami into a just obviously Miami known as a powerhouse program, but most people realize they fell off pretty big over the last 10 years, and he and Mark Richt, they did a really good job down there.
That announcement today from Alfano coming up at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central. Anything can happen in recruiting, but your prediction is Alabama?
My prediction is Alabama. As you said, anything can happen, and obviously today is not National Signing Day, so he will not be signing that letter of intent. But he's taken his visits, and he's kind of enjoyed the process. And listen, these schools are going to continue to recruit him. There's no doubt about it. And we'll keep an eye on, see if he's going to end up taking any more official visits down the road, or if he only, sometimes they do decide to take some official visits, but a lot of times they just decide to shut it all down and stick with it. Alabama's had some great players, especially. I think it helped Alabama a little bit having some kids from New Jersey taken in the NFL draft this past April. So I'm sure that sticks out to him a little bit as well.
No doubt about it. All right, let's talk about what's on the horizon. Of course, it's camp time coming up in June, and that is just huge. Alabama already with 12 commitments for 2019, hoping to get a 13th this afternoon from Alfano. What else is on the horizon that could be happening, let's say, in the next few weeks in regards to Alabama? Who are some guys that you feel like are close to maybe pulling the trigger for the Crimson Tide?
Well, as many know, it's spring evaluation period. So coaches have been, really ever since the A-Day game, coaches have been on the road. They've been evaluating a ton of players all over the country. I mean, these coaches, that's their life during the spring. As soon as the spring game ends, they are on the road and they're hitting, every top place in the country. And, they're visiting kids that they haven't offered, kids that aren't on anybody's radar. They're making sure that they're not missing anything. No stone is left unturned during the spring evaluation season. They're trying to make sure that they get the right guys on campus this summer. If those guys are the top players in the country, or if they're considered top-tier targets for the Crimson Tide, or if they're kids that Alabama just wants to see in camp and see if those guys may stand out in camp. I remember a few years ago, this wide receiver came to Alabama's camp in July. He was kind of a known kid, but not really on Alabama's radar. He came to camp, and I remember, you know this name, I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, Chris Carter, the NFL Hall of Fame wide receiver, gives me a call, and he says, Andrew, he goes, there's this kid that he was the most impressive wide receiver I saw at Alabama's camp today. He'll be starting for Alabama next fall. And I said, well, does he have an offer from Alabama yet? He said, no, not yet. They're going to offer him today. And I said, okay, well, they're going to offer him today, but you're already saying that he's going to start at Alabama next year. He said, oh, I guarantee you, he'll be the best receiver that ever came through Alabama. I said, okay, whatever. He's just, he's an NFL Hall of Fame wide receiver. I should probably listen to him, but he also loves some wide receivers. So we'll see if that happens. Well, about an hour later, I get a text message, hey, Alabama just offered this kid. His name's Amari Cooper. So, stuff like that's going to happen. Kids are going to emerge at summer camp, and Alabama has all their camps in June this year. We've seen it kind of spread out all the way up until this year. We've seen it spread out where they have two camps in June, 2 camps in July, an O-line, D-line camp, and a high school camp each month. Alabama will also have a special teams camp. I believe that's on June the 2nd. But a lot of kids are going to be coming in for camp. A lot of kids are going to be coming in to visit. And guess what? There's a lot of kids that are considered, top-tier targets, but Alabama still wants to see them. Alabama still wants to see them strap it up and do one-on-one and also be coached by them. Alabama wants to see these guys and see if they're able to be coached by them because they don't hold back any punches. They go full steam at these camps, and you could probably ask any 12-year-old how the camps are, and guess what? It's just as hard as going out to fall practice with Alabama. I mean, they push every person to the limits out there, so they really want to see if these, especially these kids who are 17, 18 years old, if they can really handle being coached by Alabama, because they know they're good, but can they be coached by them, and do they fit the program?
Andrew Bone wrapping up with us here on the Gary Harris Show on the Bud Light Hotline. Follow him on Twitter at Andrew J. Bone, recruiting reporter for Rivals.com and Bama Insider. I want to ask you about something that I got a question on our television show earlier this week with Rodney Ortide, Insider TV, that it did strike me as unusual. Alabama already in this class, and they're both in-state schools, have offered an offensive tackle and a quarterback from the same school. Of course, Pierce Quick and Paul Tyson from Hewitt-Trussville, a tackle and a quarterback, and Amari Kite and Talia Tagovailoa, a tackle and a quarterback from Thompson High School. How unusual is that, Bone?
It's unusual. You don't normally see it. I mean, we see it sometimes at some elite programs, kind of throughout the country. You look at Mater Day last year had J.T. Daniels, who signed with USC, who's one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and also Tommy Brown, who signed with Alabama. That was just a rare occurrence that you see something like that, and it's extremely rare to Birmingham area schools that have that. With a guy like Talia Tagovailoa and Amari Kite, and then Paul Tyson and Pierce Quick. It's extremely rare and something you don't see very often. So obviously it worked out pretty well for Alabama in that regard, because you have those guys are two, especially the offensive linemen. Those guys are two really elite players. I mean, guys that both of them are going to finish in the Rivals 100, and which is it's an unbelievable year in the state of Alabama, because you're going to have three offensive linemen in the state of Alabama when you toss in Clay Webb from Oxford as Rivals 100 players, and three offensive linemen, top 100 players in the country. That's just that's remarkable. And then with Talia at Thompson, and then Paul Tyson at Hewitt, those guys are fantastic. And earlier this week we saw both of those guys get invited to the Elite 11 finals this summer. So I think that's huge, for the state of Alabama, and also for the Alabama Crimson Tide, having both of their quarterback commitments heading to the Elite 11 finals.
Yeah, it really, really is. All right, Bone, I know you'll be on top of the Alfano commitment today at 2:00 Central, and if folks want to track you and keep up with that and all the other recruiting news, how do they do it?
Yeah, please follow me at my Twitter handle, Andrew J. Bone, and you can send an alert on there. So whenever I post a tweet or post the announcement, it'll come straight to your phone. But you're going to have plenty of coverage of the announcement on BamaInsider.com. Breakdown of if he ends up committing to Alabama, a breakdown of kind of what it means for the recruiting class, in terms of numbers and what kind of impact he can have for Alabama down the road. So definitely stay tuned, and for Alabama fans, hopefully it'll be a good day for everyone.
Yeah, it'll be a great start to the weekend. Thanks a lot, Bone.
All right, Gary, thank you.